Hi, this is Mark Arnold from the Fun Ideas Podcast, and today I have a friend of mine. His name is Jim Dewrance. And how are you, sir?
Marvelous, bloody marvelous. Glad to be here.
And basically, the reason I wanted to have you on my show is because we talk about all types of elements of pop culture, and I learned about you from my ex-girlfriend's best friend's brother. That's you. And I found out you play a harmonica, and a mean harmonica at that, and tour around and play concerts in the San Francisco Bay Area mainly, but all over the place. And so I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And just like we have a lot of common interests, and we'll have a little fun for a few minutes, for an hour or so.
We're quite the eclectics.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. Go ahead.
I usually start off by saying, you could say what you're going to say too, but I usually start off by saying, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in the music, especially blowing the harmonica bit.
It's funny. My musical life began in grade school, I think fourth grade. We had a music teacher in a school orchestra, and she played wonderful violin, and I was completely enchanted. And my dutiful father really rented or bought a violin for me, but never could encourage me to practice. And I seem to have had 10 thumbs when I was a child. And so that didn't go very far. Played in the Corey School Orchestra. That was a lot of fun. And then I had the radio, there was 2 stations, I think, and they played a song with a lot of harmonica on it. I said, oh, that's cool. And I rode my bicycle to Campy Music in the Old Valley Fair. And they knew all the kids wanted to play that song, Born in Chicago by Paul Butterfield.
Oh.
So he sold me the correct harmonica, and I figured it out. And I said, I love this instrument. It requires no dexterity, and I can play quietly so people won't say, are the cats fighting in your room again? That was my violin practice. I love the violin, but from a safe distance. I just kind of noodle around on it from then, from age 12 onward. And I had a friend in high school who was an absolute musical prodigy. He was friends with Chris Kane and people, that kept at it, got really good. But he taught me everything I need to know about music. And we'd literally sit in his woodshed, and he'd say, learn this, do this, this is your solo. You get one note. And he'd be wailing away on guitar, and I'd be going, do, 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 like Morse code. But I learned how to phrase, how to not overplay, how to accompany guitar, and not just be playing a bunch of stuff. And I thought I had it figured out. I didn't.
Yeah.
As far as, we had a great little combo. We'd get on an off ramp and hitchhike and get a ride and get in the car and just start jamming. And get a ride to Santa Cruz. And they'd usually either, they never jumped us off at the next off ramp. We'd get a ride to where we wanted to go. We figured we hit on something. We got as far as San Jose to Bolinas. It was a great place to end up hitchhiking to, and sleeping on the beach. Those are the good old days. You could do that sort of stuff. Except with 2 scraggly young guys that looked fairly harmless and were.
Right.
And they had a modicum of talent, and we'd entertain our rides. That was a beautiful, beautiful thing to look back on. I stopped playing music because the scene changed. And I thought, oh, I better get serious about life and get a degree or something, which I never finished. I did do the school, and I did work in a serious business for a while. And I just kind of got the bug again to play. I met a guy, Jimmy Dewrance, the owner of the Poorhouse Bistro. Have you ever been there? It's a famous, it's quite famous.
Yeah, that's why I asked you recently when we saw each other.
Yeah.
It's still there, and you told me a story about it moving and stuff, but you could tell that
they're going to move it. Yeah, it's going to stay live in yet another location. Anyway, I met Jay at Tower Records in Campbell, and we're flipping through vinyl. And like, you play? Yeah. You play? Yeah. What sort of band? Yeah. Okay. And he had a beautiful music room. his brother, Jeff, he was an amazing collector of records. He had a room, going to the guy's first house for the first time. He had a room, they'd make custom little boxes and they'd be filled with vinyl. And he just bought vinyl and the room was surrounded with vinyl. And the first time I walked in, I was just like, oh, dude. And they had some gear, a little PA. And so we get in there and work up some tunes and all the records we bought. Of course, Jeff had it all. So we had a wonderful reference library and tried to figure out playing blues, because harmonica, you got to play blues. A little side note, I learned how to play country harmonica by, I got shipped away to East Oregon. I was in Oregon before all you guys. 1973, my father thought I needed some straightening out. So he shipped me off to his buddy. I call him Uncle Ernie. He had a trucking company way in the middle of East Oregon, a town called Aragon, Oregon. It really exists. It's between Boredom and Standstill. Boardman and Stansted. Stan something. Yeah.
Is that further east than like Sisters? That's as far east as I got.
It's further east. It's on the river.
Okay.
Right before the river.
Okay.
McNary Dam's right there.
One of these days we'll get to Bend and go to Idaho and all that stuff, but for now.
Yeah. Well, this is on the way to Idaho. It's off the interstate, but it was a great experience. Anyway, I went back with a buddy, Stuart Smith. We how do we get there? We got a ride to Sacramento, tried to hitchhike out of there, could not get a ride. Somebody pulled over and said, go to Davis, jump the trains. We got a train and then a bus and another hitchhike ride. Got to back to Oregon in 75. And so I went back to work with the truckers and we did all kinds of stuff. Great place to sow your wild oats and make some money while you're at it. But they had Charlie McCoy singles. He's a wonderful harmonica player, wonderful music. He was the Charlie McCoy. He was the music director of Hee Haw.
Oh yeah.
He played bass on Bob Dylan's Nashville Skylines record, among others. It's just he's a one-man wrecking crew, and he had beautiful harmonica singles. He plays beautiful harmonica. You've heard him.
Yes.
I don't think he did the Old Spice jingle, but he's done just all kinds. He's yeah. Anyways, I was out there and I happened to have the right keys harmonica, because you have to have a different key, a different harmonica for every key. And I'd sit in the corner and put my quarter in, or dime in, I think at the time, play these two songs, and I learned how to play them. So and that was everything I needed to know. Yeah, about country. Getting back to California and playing music, I met my buddy Jay at the record store. We started a band called the Redevelopment Blues Project. And that lasted for 5 years. And it was a great learning experience. We just figured out all kinds of stuff, how to run a band, how to be presentable on stage, show up on time, play a lot of music, mix it up, never play two shuffles in a row. If you ever start a band, listen to the drummer.
Oh.
Yeah, drummer actually will tell you what you're doing wrong. If you're playing the same beat constantly, you're playing songs too long and you wear out the dancers in one song.
Well, I know you have to follow the drummer as far as like the count in typically. I mean, I've seen guitarists do it, but usually if you want a silent count in, it's the boom, 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 or whatever.
That's your bass and your drummer. If you got a good rhythm section, I'm window dressing.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it's like there'd be at a dance gig. So I played so many different combos, but mostly duets or acoustic with a string bass and a 4-piece bass, guitar, drums, and me. That's the only way you make any money. And you can make a lot of noise with 4 people.
Right.
Yeah. And mix it up and just you figure it out after a while, not get thrown out, maybe even get rehired here and there. Yeah.
Now, based on what you're saying, you're basically self-taught, correct? You never took lessons per se.
I never really took lessons, but I've hung out with some very, very generous musicians. Oh, it seems like it's the bass players. The other instrumentalists told me stuff about how songs should work. End with a bang. It's really more of arranging the show, and it's fun to solo. If you're a guitar player, people know you for your shredding solos, but it's really about the songs, finding songs that you can get behind as opposed to trying to be a crowd pleaser, which works for most people. It's just if you're doing obscure music, which blues is like 0.2% of the market in music, so it's pretty obscure. So you're winning the crowd over every time you get out there. And our theory is if you play your music well, you mix it up, you're entertaining, and trying to engage with people without being, too overbearing. It works. It's a lot of fun, and it's floated my boat for 30 years. Between that, and I do photography. I'm a photographer. When I can't get enough band gigs, they support each other. Yeah.
What type of things do you do there? Typically, like weddings and other events, or?
I've done about a dozen weddings in my life, and it's mostly for friends. And I've got fine art collections and buildings. Basically, I have professional friends that take pity on me and hire me, and I figure out what.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're just not saying click, 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 like here's some photos. You actually are hired, so I guess that's half the battle.
There's a
like
bit
you have
to
a client
There's a bit to it. Yeah. It's funny because I work for a wonderful architect who does a lot of schools around here, and I get to photograph his projects when they're done. But I met him when he hired my band, and the person that put us together said, "By the way, this guy's cheaper and faster than the other guy you're working with, so give him a try." And it worked out.
Do you get a lot of photography gigs that way, just because you're also doing the performing, and it just through process of just communicating, you say, "Yeah, I take photos too. Oh, we'll hire you for that," or whatever?
Generally, I kind of keep a firewall between the two.
Oh,
Not a hard fire, but if I'm playing a gig, I want to concentrate on that. You don't want to confuse people. It's very easy to confuse people, and you want to make, get your message across. This is the band, this is the band you want to follow, whatever. And by the way, how old's your kid? Oh, you need new pictures. I don't do that. I've been lucky
harmonica
to be
playing photographer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's it right there. Yeah.
So, sticking with the music a little bit longer.
Let's
Are you in a
music.
band now? You mentioned a band back in the 70s. I mean, are you in a regular band, or what do you typically do when you're on tour? Do you just jam with different people, or what's your typical touring life? I know we've had a pandemic for the past year, but barring
touring.
that, what do you typically do?
I really haven't toured very much. I went to Canada. Okay, my thing is I've been really lucky because if you play harmonica, nobody hires you. If you sing and play harmonica, you might get some gigs. But the thing is, you need to do, how do you say it? You need to learn how to be a band leader and go out and hustle work. And everything involved with that, marketing, follow up, Facebook, get the email out, get the message out, everything. You got to do everything. It's a business. You got to think of it as a business. When you get up there on stage, all that goes away. You're doing what you got into it to do, which is play music that you love to play. Yeah. Band thing, I've always had, not always, but for the past 30 years, I've had my own band, which I've always trying to put over as number one. Then opportunities come up. I had my first real band, I'll call it my first, that I was running. So from 1992 to about 95, it was the Blackjacks. Yeah, we were a little badass little blues band. Kind of modeled on Fabulous Thunderbirds and Hanson Thunderbird, because we were white guys playing blues, and they were kind of like the template for that. And the Butterfield Blues Band, but we weren't rocking a rock blues band. We were trying to play. There really is a thing, I hate to use terms, but it makes blues idiomatically correct and with the time and the feel. And it's not rock and roll. You have to unlearn everything you've ever learned if you grew up playing rock and roll to play blues correctly. You're playing on the backbeat. It's an interplay with the instruments, and it's very improvisational, and yet every song has a distinct hook or lick or whatever to it. Anyway, I had this band and it was doing pretty good. We were all, but I was a bit of a toe gazer. We all were. We're actually looking back on it. It was like, it was a good little band. Everybody went off to do really cool stuff afterwards. I was invited to join a band where I played with the one famous guy I played with. I got to play with Brownie McGee. So all you people out there, blues fans, look up Brownie McGee and Sonny Terry. They were kind of just a great duet, basically. Though Brownie did everything. He was brilliant. He was really old. He got sick and passed away before we were supposed to go to Australia. So that's my touring career has had several hard, well,
I guess my terminology is I consider touring just performing. I mean, even if you just do it at the same location, but I consider it more touring because you're in different locations. I've seen you like at the Vasona Park. I've seen you at the Poorhouse. It seems like there's a couple other places I've seen you when I used to live down in the San Jose area. When I assume you've not done this recently, but when things are good and you're normally performing, how many kind of consistent locations do you tend to play at?
It's really 3 or 4.
Okay.
And then there's a few things that are one-offs.
Okay.
There's places I play every month, seasonally and annually. How's that? Okay. Yeah.
Because I get your little news email, or in the back, whenever I say it is, I'm talking 2019 and before, because you're kind of slowly bringing it back. I see, it's like I'm on your email list, and it says I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here.
It's got better.
Yeah.
And I hope it stays better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to paraphrase Thoreau, I've toured extensively in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
No,
I didn't expect you being global,
yeah.
globe-trotting world tour.
There was a time when I did. I was supposed to go to Australia for a couple of weeks. It was going to be great, and then the main guy got sick, and we never did it. And I did play in Canada. We toured in support of Robert Cray basically in Edmonton and Calgary, a couple other things up there. That was at year 2000. That was going back to my first band. I'm going to jump back to 1995. I was invited to join a band called the Elmerly Thomas Blues Review, and it was great. And they had a bunch of gigs lined up besides the Brownie McGee thing. We did do San Francisco Blues Festival, Long Beach Blues Festivals. Did some really big festivals, the California ones. The Fountain Blues Festival, the one at San Jose State, that was a wonderful event. Got to open up for Bo Diddley. Got to meet him. Got to meet a lot of cool people.
Cool.
They really did some stuff. But there's a lot of work in the Bay Area. And you got to go after it, and or be in 4 bands. Right now, I'm in basically I go out and play duets at barbecue joints. 4-piece plays at bars, and I call it the festival band. I'm in a band called AJ Crawdaddy, and he gets some really nice gigs. Side note on that, Angelo Rossi was the lead guitar player for Pablo Cruz. So I guess that's another famous guy I get to play with and still get to play with. We played yesterday on Capitola on the wharf, and it was really nice.
Do you just kind of come across these guys, or are you referred to people, or how do you tend to
meet all these different celebrities? You keep showing up and you get known. And there's another guy I got to play a lot of gigs with, not for a couple of years, Jeffrey Halford and the Healers. Great songwriter. He does 95% original material. And for some reason, he likes me playing harp with him. And it's totally different thing. It's like bluesy singer-songwriter rock. I mean, he's his own thing.
Right.
We have a great time playing. That I met him through a recording studio that would call me once in a while when they needed a harmonica part on a song, but I didn't, they didn't want me to join the band. Just like, we want harmonica on this part of the song. I'm like, all right, tell me, kind of what kind of feel you want, slow, medium, fast, sappy, whatever. And we figure out some. And I did a couple of cuts for Halford, and he called me for a bunch of gigs. It was great. A lot of fun. I toured extensively in Marin County with him. Yeah. When he goes to Europe, he goes to Europe. He's going to go to Europe again in this month or September, and just brings one or two people,
Oh.
and where they need support.
Bring Jim.
Yeah. Phone it in.
Yeah. Well, since you've played with a variety of different players and everything, you must have quite the repertoire of songs in your. I mean, or can you just kind of wing it and ad lib when you do a blues jam, or how do you work?
Well, there's a huge element of that, of being able to improvise / ad lib. Then again, there's songs never really totally go away, and I've learned a lot of songs.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You probably have an incredible repertoire just from being around for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you keep showing up. That's how you get gigs. That's how you meet people. You get to play with them. Open mics are great. I used to call them the hiring hall. There was a couple of open mics that are blues jams, and some really wonderful musicians that show up, and you get to play a couple songs with them, and it's like you get along. It's like, let's exchange contact. I got a gig. Here's my song list. Yeah, if you got work, you amaze people you can get to work with you. Of course, you gotta bring the goods, or else they're not gonna work with you. But yeah, it's got better. Yeah.
Now, throughout all this, do you write any songs? Do you do any of your own material, or no?
Not really. I've written a few songs that have held up for me. I tend to play every time I join a different band. I say, well, I got my 3 songs.
Nice.
That I can work in. I'll write it. I got an idea book. I just haven't really followed up with it.
Okay.
Finishing a project. Again, the whole change in media is like, I want to spend all this money on a hard copy product that's going to be really hard to get any money back on.
Right.
I've never been in funds enough to be able to just like, let's whip out another CD. It's got to pay for itself.
Right.
I really need some live video and stuff just to put up on social, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't finished. I'm on a lot of CDs. I like talking about these studios call me to play a few songs, but I've not done anything in my own initiative in 20 years.
Right.
I got one about halfway done, and it's still about halfway done. Yeah, over easy. Yeah.
But speaking of CDs, I just wanted to quote. I had Gary Puckett on this show about a couple months ago, and he says,
right on.
He says, I'm still selling CDs on my website. Why? Because you can't sign a streaming audio.
Yes.
So there is a reason for having CDs still after all this time, or tapes, or whatever you want, whatever physical format.
Band I'm in, we played yesterday. AJ Crawdaddy, a bunch of CDs. I think the thing is, don't put a 10 or a 20 in the tip jar and take a CD. Or people will buy them, and people are quite generous. And I talk to people at gigs like, I don't even have a CD player. It's like, well, they make nice coasters. It's a nice memento, a nice talisman, a nice keepsake. You was here, and we'll sign it for you.
Yeah.
What's the thing with your work of art? It's called a unique digital. Not a shotchka. No. There's a thing.
A coaster.
That he does a unique digital. It'll come to me tomorrow.
Yes.
No, I was just reading about it. These artists are doing these things where it's a one-off, some kind of digital media.
Yeah.
And
I've seen people do this with CDs. They'll make them into clocks, especially CDs that have like some sort of silk screen, some sort of thing on it,
a little bit of artwork. Yeah.
And they've done it with vinyl records too, because they'll have the hole. All you have to do is put the gears into it and have the hands on one side, so you get a clock. So, hey, another use for a CD. Anyway.
I gotta tell you, it's really nice. I have a lot of CDs. I kept them. I still have tapes. I still have a tape player because I've been in the business for a while. Yeah. And you can digitize that stuff, but A, it takes time.
Right.
And B, I know of people that have lost all kinds of music because their ID got messed up with Apple or somebody.
Right.
I own the hard copy.
Yeah.
I have a playable. I still have a nice, I got the gear to play it with.
I mean,
My
I'm the
car
same way.
sucks.
It just amazes me, like what you just said. I don't have a CD player. What do you do when a new format comes along? You just junk it. I mean, it doesn't take that much room in your house. I don't know. It just seems.
The transition from vinyl to CDs was like, this is cool. I mean, it takes up so much less space.
Yeah.
Space is always a consideration, but accessibility is primary.
I guess I'm weird because I have like a CD player, a DVD player, a Blu-ray player, two turntables, a tape player. What else?
Only one tape player?
A 16 millimeter projector and an 8 millimeter projector. And it's like, I keep them all because, I have different formats of everything and I haven't transferred it over. I'm like you. And it's fine to keep it on film. It's fun to thread up the film every so often. I haven't done it in a while, but I could get it transferred. But usually the stuff I have on film is on DVD. It's just that it's fun to watch it on a different format sometimes.
Yeah, we have a 16 millimeter projector as my dad's, and we'll have a home movie night once in a while. My sisters in Santa Cruz, and they're really fun to watch.
Right.
If you got the screen, you got the stuff. It's so novel.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I am on a record. I am on one vinyl record.
Ooh, which one?
Jeffrey Halford. It'll take me a minute to find the record. I don't want to jump away. I should have pulled it out to be able to hold it up the screen.
That's okay.
But just done a couple of cuts just playing harmonica, but he sold them out. His label, he's got a label, and they decided to press a couple hundred of them, gone. So the niche market, that's the thing, is figuring out a way to market to the 0.1%, because they'll spend money on your stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody else trying to figure out how to get it for free.
That's like me with all my books. I mean, it's like, I'm not gonna have a New York Times bestseller. I wish I would, but I mean, I know that there are animation fans that will buy those books, and music fans that will buy those books, and comic book fans that will buy those books. So,
again, back to CDs, people will buy them. It's a wonderful thing. A lot of times they'll just do it because they're enjoying themselves. They like the music. And they know somebody with a CD player, and they just want to have it because they had a good time. People like keepsakes, and they'll take everybody's on so many. I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of amazingly crummy video clips I'm on. Yesterday I'm in a thing, and there's like 7, 8, 10, 12, 20 people, doing videos, and they're out there somewhere, and that's nice. My name's probably not on it. So it's kind of, people, that's the way people do it now. But fortunately, my demographic still buys stuff. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Now, is harmonica the only thing you play? I know you said you don't play the violin, but is there any other instruments you at least can play or try to play, or no? Okay.
I have a bass, an electric bass, and I can work out bass lines on it. I can hear all the parts. It's just, again, stamina and dexterity.
Right.
I actually play one song. It's a 2-note song. It's just bump, 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 and a bump, bump, and it's real simple. And after about 4 minutes, all the tendons in my arms are screaming.
Oh, wow.
It takes so much dexterity and technique to play guitar, bass, drums properly. Playing well for 3-4 hours. It's there's so much to it. It's that people make it look easy, I always respect that.
They're the professionals. That's why. I mean, even you make, I've seen you in performance many times, and you make the harmonica look easily. You just pull it out and you're or just one note like you're talking about, and it's like, I have 2 or 3 harmonicas. I can't get anything out of it. It's like just a breathing machine. But I know it's talent plus practice plus perseverance on all these things. So
you gotta want it. You gotta want it real
exactly. The closest I ever did is I played piano for 10 years, but I never had the gumption, for lack of a better term, the stick-to-itiveness to keep doing it. It didn't excite me. The only good thing about learning how to play the piano is I did learn how to write music. I did learn how to read music, and I know music theory and all the classic composers and everything like that. So I'm very knowledgeable in that regard. But it's like to actually do it, pick up a guitar and whatever, no.
To make music.
Yeah.
To make music.
And I was never able to jam with anybody. So I kudos to you. And it's like, it was when I was in my 20s. I said, I took piano for 10 years and I can't do what you did. It was this guy who just picked up a mandolin. He normally played guitar and he just picked it up and started playing it. And I said, how do you do that? Just pick up a mandolin. And he goes, well, do you play by ear or do you play by sight? And I go, well, my piano teacher always told me to play by sight, not by ear. And he goes, that's your problem. You have to unlearn everything. You got to relearn by
Back to
ear.
that.
And I'm like,
unlearn.
And I had lessons. See, that's why I asked, did you have lessons or no? And you said pretty much on the job training or self-taught, right? So,
Well, going back to it was you and your teacher and your piano.
Yeah.
You didn't have a friend that made you learn how to play with a bass or play with a guitar
No.
or sing with you.
Because I was good, but there's two people in my school that were excellent. And so I always felt like, I can kind of play the piano, and I was intimidated back then. Nowadays, I probably wouldn't be, but that's hindsight.
No. When you're a kid, it's horrible.
And so when I'm playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and they're playing, bum, ba-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-dum, and I was like, I can't play that, or they can just jam in. It's like, all right, take
Those
it.
Tchaikovsky, right?
And they're like Chico Marx going, whatever. I go, I can't do that. And to top it all off, one of the kids was blind and he was a zillion times better than me. And I was like, the other guy, he actually became semi-famous. I'll name drop him. His brother's been on my show. His brother's name is Andrew Goldfarb, but the one who is the excellent pianist is a guy named Ed Goldfarb. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's worked for Francis Ford Coppola and stuff like that. And
oh my, sounds familiar, but I can't honestly say.
He's been around, so you might have bumped into him. But anyway, so
he's brilliant and successful. I don't know.
Well, he's brilliant. I don't know about it. Well, he's more successful than me. I don't know about being like mega Elton John successful or something, or Billy Joel successful, but I mean, he's successful enough that he has a nice house and Marin and stuff like that. So it's like,
he made a living at it.
Yes, exactly. So I more power to him. I'm not jealous or anything. It's like that was his path. This is, and I went on a different path. But I always kind of thought, if I applied myself a little bit more, would I have done, or would I've just kind of floundered just trying?
Wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
Wasn't meant to be. And you can always pick it up.
Yeah. But I don't have the strong desire. I'd rather write music and have other people perform it. It's like, because, like I said, I know how to write music. I know all the notation and everything like that. So, and even back in the day, when I was playing piano, I did this thing called Composers Today, and I actually won a couple times, and I only entered like 3 or 4 times. And for me to win a couple times, I wasn't even trying. I was just like, well, this sounds pretty good, and I notated it down, turned it in, and I got a little award thing for it. Anyway, that's my story. So
we finally got your story.
Yes, that's my music story. Yeah, I haven't told that on.
My work is done.
You got it out of me. So now that things are kind of opening up, I know you said the last year and a half you weren't doing anything. Are you like performing every night, or are you just kind of easing back into it, or what's
grabbing everything I can get?
Okay.
I mean, again, as I work with a lot of people, there's a few venues that have been very adventurous. We kept doing live streams almost for most of the duration of COVID, where we get the band inside and people could come to go or stand outside. Then they had limited outdoor seating, and that went away, and then it came back. But I managed to stay in practice through it all.
Yeah.
And when the weather got better, fortunately, California, you get a long outdoor season, so we play, 20 feet away from people and let people, spread the tables out. Now it's like all restrictions are gone. Now they're probably going to come back. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's been really, I mean, it's been pretty good. Knock on wood. It's been a flurries of gigs, and I'm looking to see what we can do with my various combos that I play with, and try and keep them going. Again, it's like you get a network of players, and I get gigs somewhere. I have 2 or 3 people playing each instrument that know my repertoire. So if I can't get, Johnny and Dave and Ron, I call the other guys, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm in." Yeah.
Do you ever get stretched too thin? Like, this group of guys
No.
wants you for this gig, and
No.
this group of guys wants your gig the same night.
There's always double. No, that doesn't come. It's pretty rare.
Okay.
Yeah, things work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was going to ask you is like, oh shoot, it just came into my brain and then went. So I'll ask something else.
It'll come back.
Yes. Yeah. So tell me the Poorhouse Bistro story again. What was that about? I'm just kind of curious. I just wanted to hear that one again, just because you said when you were up here recently that they were moving and everything. And what was the story with Google and everything like that? You had told me, and why they had to move.
Oh, well, there's basically a couple of city blocks that Google has made deals to, they paid good money. They bought up all this property, and they're going to demolish everything and build a whole new, Google city. If you know where the arena, where the arena is, between the arena and the train station and
like the Shark Tank, that thing.
We just call it the arena.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what
whoever's paying to put their name on it. Yeah, the Shark Tank. Yeah. Anyway, the big arena there. Side note: I hate it when the public or bonds pay for a structure and then, Amalgamated Mega whatever gets put their name on it for a pit. I don't know. Yeah,
I'm still the one. I still call things by their old name, like Concord Pavilion.
Highway 17. Yeah.
Concord Pavilion. I don't call it whatever it is, the Sleep Train.
I don't even know what they call it.
But now it's not Sleep Train because they're gone. I don't know what it's called. I don't live there anymore. It's the something pavilion. And it's like,
let's go back. Let's go back to the thing before I forget. The Google bought all this property, and they're going to demolish everything. But they made a deal with the owner of the Poorhouse Bistro because they're some of them have a semblance of a conscience and like, okay, this might save us some face if we move the house, which the Poorhouse is situated in, which has been there for going on 80 years. It was moved from somewhere else in downtown. So the house has already moved once onto its current location. And it's like,
I remembered that. I had forgotten.
It's the one house that's on a mass, it's a commercial area. There's 2 houses that were moved there, and everything else has been commercial forever. So they're going to move it down the street around the arena into what's called Little Italy, which is behind on the north side of the arena. And that's going to happen in the fall. In autumn, it's going to move down Autumn Street, and they're going to reestablish the venue and the new location and try and start over again with the same. It's a New Orleans themed restaurant. I'm sure they serve a lot of pasta. They're the owners, Italian family from way back. Yeah. So that's the story. They're going to pick it up, move it, and then demolish everything else in that block and build this giant new thing.
Interesting. I had forgotten it had moved to there. I thought it was already there, but I think wasn't it originally like on First Street or something?
I don't know where it was. It was somewhere in the old downtown San Jose.
Yeah. Anyway, while we were talking, my other question did come back, and it had been coming back and going way back at the top of the show. You said that performing blues is different than performing rock and roll, but you didn't really explain why. So what is the difference? I mean, obviously jazz and blues sounds different than rock and roll, but as far as playing it, how is it different?
Playing on the backbeat.
Okay, so explain that. I guess
blues is blues rock, which
Okay.
people seem to love, and shredding guitars.
Okay.
You remember, you're something of a history buff. I mean, all the old comics and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, music, especially blues, was started off. The songs had to be 3 minutes long to fit on a 45.
Right.
So the thing that, so as a shorter songs, I think live people would, stretch them out a little bit, jam them out, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're playing to a format, you need to, pare things down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the sentiment. I'm going to say softer, but it's hard music, but it's, it's a harder edge. It is blues, even though a lot of it it covers the spectrum of moods, which you can, just how you vary the attack, the theme, notes, about, the John Williams of the world can write, change your mood in a split second between frames when you're watching a movie. And there's a whole science to using sound to create mood. But that's been going on since the Greeks figured out, the modes. Certain music makes you happy, certain music makes you sad. Blues can do that. The magic of blues is a sad sentiment with a happy feel.
Yeah. The only reason I asked is because immediately when you're talking about rock and roll, I think of things like Love Me Do and For Me to You, the earliest Beatles stuff where they did a lot of harmonica and stuff like that. And it's like, but that's considered rock and roll. So I'm like, is that much difference? I mean, there can be some jazz
rock
influences.
and roll covers a huge spectrum. I mean,
yeah,
got progressive rock, metal. I mean, just what it's become.
Yeah.
I see a theme where a lot of old rockers, God bless them, they slow down a little bit. I want to be a blues band now, and they can just play 12. The form is the 12-bar blues.
Right.
12 measures, tonic, subdominant, dominant, whatever you call it. You're the theory guy.
Yeah. See,
I learned all that. I forgot it. Anyway, it's usually 3 chords, sometimes 1. I mean, there's variations. There's stuff with an A, B, A. But the basic roots of it is 12-bar, which people tend like, oh, I can do that. Anybody can play 12 bars. Like, no, there's just a feel to it.
Right.
It's phrasing. Just a million. I can't even cover it here.
Mm.
Basically, it's not as hard. You don't play it as hard. And no slag on anything. All good music is good music. I'm just saying, to play blues, that would feel right. The attack is different. It's just more sensuous. Yeah, it's not so
Now, one other question is, one time when I saw you perform, I came up to you during the break in the show or something, and you opened, it was almost like a doctor's bag, and you had seemed like about 10 different harmonicas in there. And I know you said earlier that you have one for each key. Does each key, like on a piano, the key of C is a lot easier to play than, say, the key of B flat, let's say, something like that. Is that the same with harmonicas?
No, all you got to do is figure it out once.
Okay. So
if we're playing an E, there's basically 3 basic positions. So there's like 7 or 8 little things you can do. You hear Bob Dylan, that's called straight harp. The band's in A. He's playing an A harmonica. And the one blow is your tonic. And it has that campfire feel.
Right.
Cross harp is a 4th up. If you're playing and your band is in A, you're playing a D harmonica, your tonic is the 2nd draw, something like that. Yeah. I know where it is.
That's what I was going to say.
I can find it without looking.
Explaining it
without looking. And that's the dominant thing, is to play cross harp. It's called cross harp, or 2nd position. Yeah. And the fun one, it took me years to really get into, is 3rd position. It's very mournful sounding, or can be. And that's, I got to look at the chart every time, but basically the higher keys, I say if the band is in say B, I can use that A harmonica
Mhm.
and get a totally different sound.
Hmm.
And so make it something really sad if you want it real sad. Yeah, just how the notes are built in. It's called the diatonic scale. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Just
So basically
basically
playing all
pentatonic.
so
Yeah.
basically playing all of them is about the same. It's just the real thing is like what you said, different key.
And there's 3 different positions. It depends on so you get a variation in feel of the song,
Okay.
which I don't want to go into, but you can
Right.
make it sound different. You know, they're the same if the band's in the same key, and you get different stuff you can do. The higher, but yeah, so I'll just switch the harp. Depends on what the song is. And sometimes I'll play in second cross, sometimes I'll play in third. I almost never play straight harp.
Mhm.
Jimmy Reed, it's all pretty much straight harp. I don't know why, I just never got into it all these years. I figured it out, and it's like, you only do so much. And that was my limitation, no doubt. Yeah.
And typically during any song, you just use one. You wouldn't switch necessarily, or do you?
Sometimes if the
Yeah.
band goes up a key, when you
Yeah.
go up 2 frets, I should go up 2 harps, but no.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, because I haven't seen you do it during a song before. Of course, I haven't seen you perform everywhere, but it's like, but just between songs, I've seen you do it.
I've only in one band what we do that, and it was like, a small novelty, scant variation. Stay in the key. And you got to change keys to make it different. I got country does that a lot, where you go bum 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 bum, and you go up a step, and it works. Yeah.
Now, with any of the people that you play with, since I assume they trust you, do they ever just say, "Take it, Jim," and then you go wailing out on the harp, or you still kind of try to be more in the background than a lead, as it were, on any song?
Well, generally, there's a solo or 2 or 3 on every song. That's part of the form.
Right.
It's improvisational, and sometimes I do a few instrumentals. I mean, there's a million instrumentals.
But I mean, you're allowed to take it anywhere you want to, as long as you bring it back, I guess, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So, and they're okay.
My thing is, if when I'm singing, the guy takes a 10-minute solo, I've forgotten what song I'm singing. What am I singing? I don't. It's like there are things where you should do. Freddie King played the most wonderful guitar instrumentals, and the guys I work with, I said, just hey man, you want to, you really want to shred something, do your Freddie King instrumental or 2 or 3. I'm fine with that.
Well, I always find that fascinating.
The structure is good.
I always find that fascinating, but I guess that's part of being in a band, is you can kind of, you have a feel of where everybody, how they play and where they're going. So if somebody goes here, you have the ability to follow, or if you take it somewhere, they'll follow you or whatever, without everybody just suddenly collapsing.
Ideally, again, that's the whole thing of use makes master. If you're playing a song, you can take it, move around with it within the song, Yeah.
I still find that fascinating. It's probably easy for you, but for me, I'm like, wow, that's really neat. I'm easily impressed, but it's like, that's what makes it music for me.
There is a thing to it. I mean, it takes time. I shouldn't be playing over the other guy's solo. I shouldn't be playing over the singer. Especially if you're playing a horn, harmonica, a single note, you're not rhythm section. Guitar is rhythm section primarily. And we're used to shredding guitar solos, but the fellows I play with play wonderful rhythm guitar. I mean, you don't need a long shredding solos on every song.
Right.
There's so much, again, there's the response to the venue and the setting.
Right.
If it's a dance crowd, you don't want to, I don't like doing really, really long songs. I don't want to beat up the dancers and mix up the beats. Play enough of a solo for the listeners.
Don't blame you.
So, and every song's different. We got some 2-minute and 50-second songs, and there's some songs where the whole band kind of jams out. We get a little Grateful Dead-y with it, like Once a Night. That's not my thing. I'm not a jam band. I can play with jam bands. I play with jam bands. It's hella fun, but I'm not playing blues. I'm playing their stuff with a kind of a bluesy feeling. all this other stuff I've done, you know.
So apart from the music and the photography, you mentioned that. What else do you do if you have spare time? I'll say when you have spare time.
Go for hikes, ride my bike, sleep in when I can. You know. No, that's pretty much it. If you're doing what you love to do,
right?
You know, I've been lucky. I mean, I've had a subsistence artistic life for many years. I'm very fortunate in my living situation. I did a little gardening today. I cut a big hedge. Keeps the rent down.
Then you do travel, and then you do travel up here every so often. So I see you then.
Yeah, I go up, visit mom, and I got a lot of people in Oregon now.
Yeah. Ever think of moving back here, or you like it in the Bay Area?
I've thought of it many times. Again, it's a totally different scene. It'd be really hard to break in up there.
Yeah.
They love new drummers and bass players. If you're front man, it'd be hard. It'd be hard. I know enough musicians I can play some gigs, but it's a different scene. You know, I love Oregon, I love hanging out up there. I lived up there. I came back because I could. A brief aside about California. There's people that rip on California tend to have never been here, or people that live here and never been anywhere else. A lot of people move away and have a great time, and you, like yourself, you've landed on your feet. I'm just saying, you know, it's not as horrible as people make it up to be.
I mean, I've thought about coming back, but I have to come back, you know, where there's work. I mean, it's just like you, but I mean, you know, it could happen. Right now is probably not going to, just because, you know, the wife's in school and everything like that, like I said. But once that's done, she could arguably be anywhere. So I might have to wrap it up here, and then we'll take it offline. And, you know, thank you, Jim Dewrance, for being my special guest today. And we'll see you next time on the Fun Ideas Podcast.